At this time, I'd like to invite Aditya Singh to the microphone. Aditya is a White & Case partner focused on international disputes and investigations. He's qualified to practice in India, New York, and England and Wales. Aditya worked in White & Case's New York and London offices before moving to his present home base, although it is merely a base in Singapore. Aditya competed in the Jessup on behalf of Nalsar, and he's judged on the national level and here at the international rounds, including yesterday's semifinal round, for many years. He's also a member of the ILSA Board of Directors and therefore my boss, and a member of the board's firm fundraising committee. And for another very special award, I'd like to invite up my friend Aditya Singh.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for your leadership and all you do for the Jessup every year. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to begin by extending my warmest congratulations to all of this year's Jessup competitors. We have witnessed phenomenal advocacy this afternoon, but it's important to recognize every participant who traveled from all over the world for this year's Jessup. Each of you dedicated countless hours to the Jessup, and you should be very proud of what you've accomplished. Now, this year marks the 18th year of White & Case's global partnership with the Jessup. Throughout these years, we have continually looked for ways to celebrate and promote everything the Jessup stands for: the spirit of international cooperation, the highest standards of advocacy, and a commitment to the rule of law. 5 years ago, White & Case introduced an award to honor a Jessup alumnus who has made a profound impact on the legal profession and beyond. Jessup alumni have gone on to have great careers, have become influential lawyers, judges, academics, government officials, and politicians, each playing a critical role in shaping a just society. When selecting the recipient of this award, we look for a visionary leader who upholds the principles of international cooperation, the rule of law, and tireless dedication to the legal profession. This year, I am delighted to announce that the recipient of this award is His Excellency Judge Georg Nolte, member of the International Court of Justice. Judge Nolte participated in the Jessup in 1984 as a member of the team from the Free University of Berlin. His team won the German national rounds and placed third in the international rounds in Washington, D.C., also winning the Richard Baxter and the Ilona Evans Award for the best memorials. Today, Judge Nolte is widely recognized as one of the world's most renowned international legal scholars. But Judge Nolte's influence on international law began long before his appointment to the court. From 2007 to 2021, he was a member of the International Law Commission, serving as chairperson in 2017. During his tenure, he played a pivotal role in developing and codifying international law. From 2012 to 2018, Judge Nolte served as the Commission's Special Rapporteur on subsequent agreements and subsequent practice in relation to the interpretation of treaties, which we saw is a topic that is especially relevant to this year's Jessup. Now, in preparing these remarks, I spoke to my valued colleague at White & Case, Eckhard Hellbeck. Eckhard and Judge Nolte were Jessup teammates in 1984. And Eckhard recounted how Judge Nolte, even back then, had a pronounced sense of the importance of the international rule of law. This, no doubt, influenced his career choice, which was to teach international law, shaping young minds and contributing important research. As a renowned international law scholar, Judge Nolte has taught public international law for almost 4 decades at leading institutions, including as Dean of the Faculty of Law at Göttingen and as Professor of International Law at Humboldt University in Berlin. Ladies and gentlemen, it is inspiring to remember that Judge Nolte stood once where our Jessup competitors stand today. It is my honor and privilege to present the White & Case Distinguished Jessup Alumni Award to Judge Georg Nolte, and now we are pleased to hear from His Excellency. Thank you.
Dear Aditya Singh, dear participants of this year's Jessup, there are moments in life where much comes together. For me, coming back to the competition after a long professional lifespan that started with the Jessup competition, this is such a moment. I'm deeply grateful and humbled by being welcomed back to the competition in the overwhelming form of receiving the Jessup Alumni Award. I want to express my gratitude by putting my personal Jessup story in a larger context. The Jessup competition in 1984 was my first encounter with international law. I had not studied international law during law school. But somehow, after graduation, I became part of a group of 4 for whom writing memorials in the case of Industria versus Naturalia and the oral pleadings became the most enjoyable and most defining experience in their legal education. I'm very pleased to say that one of the members of my team, Eckhard Hellbeck, is present today, and some of you have been judged by him. Another member of our team, Jörg Polakevich, is now the legal advisor of the Council of Europe. I'm not saying this to show off my old friends or to suggest that you can count on a brilliant career. Yes, you can achieve everything, and you can reach any position in international law. But even if you are the best, and even if you try the hardest, this does not mean that you will be successful and that you will get what you want. Life is not like that. I would not have reached the positions that I have reached without having simply been fortunate in certain situations, or because I just happened to be at the right place or have the right nationality. So I do not try to persuade myself that it was all due to my particularly hard work or intelligence. There are many others who would have equally deserved to stand here where I am standing now. It is also for them for whom I accept this award. In 1984, I did not have any expectations as to how my professional life would develop. I did not even dare to have an ambition that went beyond the next 2 or 3 years. But I was curious about the world. In 1984 was perhaps the last year of the Cold War before a long phase of optimism started for international relations and progressive development for international law. When our team was in Washington in the final rounds, the parallel meeting of the American Society of International Law discussed the latest intervention by one of the two so-called superpowers in a developing country. That was the one by the United States in Grenada, today mostly forgotten. More importantly, a so-called missile crisis made many people feel acutely aware of the nuclear war. It was only a year later, in 1985, when the two superpowers miraculously started a long period during which international relations and international law flourished. The period which started in the mid-80s was a period for visionaries in international law. 5 years after my Jessup experience, I had the great privilege to learn from one of the great visionaries of international law at the time, from Professor Thomas Frank of New York University. He looked for fairness in international law, claimed a universal right to democratic governance, and found rights for the empowered self at the dawn of the internet age. However, as dynamic the times after the 1984 Jessup competition have been, my own vision of international law was, and still is, one of sustainable development, so to say, with an emphasis on sustainable. There are rare moments when international law develops by a leap, unfortunately, mostly after armed conflicts. But normally, international law develops incrementally. It develops incident by incident, treaty by treaty, court decision by court decision, and not always in the same direction. Sometimes, when international law is challenged on a broader scale, we lawyers play a particularly important role in explaining, defending, and upholding the law with all the skills, courage, and energy that we have to keep the law resilient. It is this form of sustainable development and defense of international law which the Jessup competition prepares us for. Not just by teaching the language of the law and how to solve exemplary cases, but also by showing the way in which we can sustainably interact with each other and contribute to achieving legal certainty and the justice which law entails. The deeper purpose of the competition is to persuade you that the law, and particularly international law, is good and necessary for the world, and that international law needs people who carry it, who represent it. Now, there's clearly a danger involved here. The Jessup competition is playful, but let's be honest, it can also make you cynical. If you draw the conclusion that any proposition can be defended and that lawyers are hired guns, I think that such a conclusion is short-sighted, and it misunderstands the Jessup competition and the law. It is precisely because it is difficult for us humans to find the right solution that we must train our young people to be open-minded about the complexity of the problems and of the world, and to be able to see the world with the eyes of others. This may lead to them staring into the abyss. But this exercise is just the first step. The second and decisive step is the effort to integrate, after everything has been said, and to find the right solution, the relatively best solution with good conscience. It is with good reason that in law, we do not trust that any one individual can do this fairly enough. Therefore, we have collective institutions. Like courts, our best hope is that collective wisdom will emerge from such institution, wisdom which protects against arbitrary exercises of power, upholding rules and principles, particularly in difficult times. After my Jessup experience in 1984, I remained connected to the competition. Like so many former participants, I continued to be involved by coaching teams. During my academic career of 30 years or so, I've coached some 20 plus teams, most of which were better than my own team had been. And if that needed any proof, I can point to one of the many team members which I have coached, which is here today, Janina Barkholt, who is one of the co-authors of this year's Jessup problem and who was my trusted advisor for 4 years at the International Court of Justice. These teams were highlights of my life as a teacher. So my Jessup experience in 1984 was the stepping stone for my life in international law. It has helped me to fill the roles which I had the privilege of playing in my professional life, including the one now at the court. My Jessup experience of 2025 today is a moment when much of this professional life comes together. And it is with my profound gratitude that I accept the Jessup Alumni Award. Thank you very much, and all the best to you all. Thank you.